Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross from PTCGRadio, and I'm back with another game I played on PTCGO, the official program of the Pokemon trading card game. Now, I am playing Night March here, a deck which I've posted a deck breakdown of recently, and I may have posted a video, I forget right now. And I'm playing against another interesting deck which has come about because of the release of the new set, Phantom Forces, and as we got two new decks here in quite an interesting game, I thought it would be worth a go. So I start off, I've got my Pumpkaboo, that's good. I've got a DCE, which means in theory I can attack with Pumpkaboo next turn. The problem I've got, unfortunately, is that I don't actually have anything in the discard pile. Now, for those of you that have forgotten, Pumpkaboo has the Night March attack. It does 20 damage times the amount of Pokemon in the discard pile that have the Night March attack. So what I want to be doing, and it does that for 3 colourless energy, but if I can get a Dimension Valley, a stadium down on the field, it will reduce that by... it will reduce that cost by 1, so I can do it for a double colourless energy. So I attach my double colourless, I use the Ultra Ball to go and get myself a second Pumpkaboo, so I've got another attacker, and so I can't get donked next turn, and I'm going to grab myself a Juniper, because I could have got something like a Battle Compressor to discard 3 cards from my deck, but then I've got no support the next turn. I've got a DCE, but I can attach that to Pumpkaboo, and that will work nicely. As it is, my opponent ends me, and that hand is lovely. I've got a... Oh, and my opponent plays a Battle Compressor, and he benches a Manectric. Now, Manectric, he's going to be going mostly for Mega Manectric, one would assume. And Mega Manectric has an attack for 2 energy, which allows you to attach 2 energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. So clearly, that's what my opponent is going to be going for here. Now, he's also using Battle Compressor to discard... he's also, getting rid of a couple of Execute. And what that means is that he's likely going to be playing something like Superior Energy Retrieval, or something which is going to involve a bunch of discarding. And you see he gets his Mega Manectric there. You can also see everything in his deck is full rarity, so he's probably not a new player. So, I get my Battle Compressor, and I'm just going to discard my Lampent. As I said in my deck breakdown here, I'm not playing Litwick. The Lampent are in there just to be discarded, so I can use Battle Compressor to discard those 3 Lampent, and there's no downside to me here, which is very, very nice indeed. Now, it looks like one of them might be prized, but I can discard 3 of them, so it's not the end of the world, and we see that one of them is prized, but that's not a big problem now. I've got my couple of... Muscle Band, which in theory I can attach, and I've got an N or a Juniper depending on what I want to do, but I don't know what my opponent... Oh no, my opponent ended me last turn, so he did have something. But I'm going to Juniper because I'm going for speed here. I'm going against a deck which, when it gets set up, is very, very powerful, gets lots of big attacks off quickly. And the reason I attached a 3rd energy to the active Pumpkaboo there was I don't have a Dimension Valley out right now, which is annoying, but what can you do? So I've drawn into a 2nd Battle Compressor here, and the real thing I need to do here is make sure I can discard Pokemon, but not run out of attackers. Now I'm going to get rid of Joltik, but it looks like I might have a Joltik or even 2 Joltik prized here. Not very nice to have 3 Night Marches prized, but there's nothing you can do about it. So, you know... Let's just leave it at that, to be honest. Now, you notice I am playing Deoxys here. This is a slightly earlier version of Night March. The whole point of Deoxys is to add damage, as is my Silver Bangle. If you want to see my more recent list, watch the deck breakdown where I explain everything in detail. Now, here I'm going to be able to use Night March, and I hit for 140 damage. And that's not bad. Now, I'm not getting a one-hit KO, but I don't need to get a one-hit KO as my opponent plays a Startling Megaphone and discards my trainers, because to be perfectly honest with you, my opponent apparently has very little. Oh no, he doesn't, sorry, he's evolved into Mega Manectric. And what you see here is the power of Night March. Manectric is good, but it takes a couple of turns to actually get going and get moving. Night March does not take a... Well, it depends how good your build is and how well you draw. I'm drawing quite well, and it's going very, very well indeed. I've got already, I'm hitting for 120 now, I've got rid of my Muscle Band, but I've got plenty of options, I've got plenty of things that I can do. The other thing is that now that the Caldeo has got 30 HP left, I could even kill it on the bench using Espeon's attack, so I could have played my escape rope the previous, before I played that supporter, but the problem is I didn't actually have a Pumpkaboo ready to attack, so that could have been slightly foolish. But you'll see here, my deck is running very, very well. It's quite a good list. It's not perfect, it's not amazing, it doesn't always fire brilliantly, but in this game it is. And this isn't necessarily showing as I knock out the Caldeo EX. I'm not saying Night March is, and I draw 2 Night Marches, because as we saw, I've got at least 3 of them priced. This isn't an amazing deck, it's not winning every game, but what it is doing is winning when it hits off. Now, he's got Mega Manectric here. He's going to be able to do a fair amount of damage, and he's using Ultra Ball there, and he's got his 2 Execute. Now, the whole point of Execute seems to be essentially giving him something to discard. He brings the Execute out of the discard pile, he discards the Execute with Ultra Ball, and it gives him a free Ultra Ball, saves his deck a little bit. And because he's running Battle Compressor, he can do that quite nicely. Now, he's got his Black Kyurem down, and he also seems to have a Squirtle, presumably for Blastoise. And one would assume here that what he's trying to do is kind of hit both bases, using Manectric and also using Blastoise, in order to have kind of 2 ways to get Black Kyurem going, which is potentially a little bit clunky, but you've got to use Lightning and Water for Manectric anyway, so maybe you can see where he's coming from here. Like I've said, he's got pretty much a full rarity deck, he's got all secret rares and full arts, etc., and generally those players are not new and they know what they're doing. The advantage I've got here, however, is a deck which is hitting for a boatload of damage. I'm going to be able to use that Ultra Ball to get rid of 2 Joltics, which I'm running the risk here of maybe running out of attackers, but I might be running a Sacred Ash in this particular build to get around that. And I'm going to get an Eevee because sooner or later Night March might run out, but I've got my Eevees on the bench. Now, you see, I did not bench the Deoxys there, and the reason I didn't bench the Deoxys is simply because he's running Black Kyurem EX. And if he's running Black Kyurem EX, that means he's going to be able to use Lysandra, and when he uses Lysandra, he's then going to be able to take 2 prizes off my Deoxys. And it's the same reason I don't like using Mew EX in this particular deck. It creates an unfavourable prize trade. The whole point is, I'm knocking out EXs, and he is not. Now here, I don't know exactly how much damage I'm hitting for, we're going to see in a minute, but I'm attacking with Pumpkaboo, I've got another ready to go. When he goes down, I've got a Flareon ready to go. I am doing a lot of damage very, very quickly here. Now, you'll see my deck is already quite thin with a Battle Compressor. I could discard some stuff to thin my deck and raise the chances statistically of drawing what I want to draw on subsequent turns, but I don't want to run the risk of decking out, so I get rid of an Ultra Ball I'm not going to need, and that's all I'm actually doing. I'm then able to Night March for 180 damage, which would knock out any EX, doesn't knock out Mega Manectric. Bit of a shame I didn't have a Silver Bangle, but hey ho, what can you do about it? Again, I do have an Espeon. Espeon can hit the bench for 40 damage, that will knock out that Mega Manectric. So yeah, he can hit me for 110 here, that's fine. He can then, I can then knock him out with a Flareon because I don't need to use the Pumpkaboo. That gives me the Pumpkaboo to knock out his Black Kyurem EX. So essentially here, you can see I've got the 2 double colourless energy. He knocks out my Pumpkaboo. I can then kill it with Flareon or Espeon or whatever. He can then bring up his Black Kyurem EX, which I can then knock out for a double colourless energy using Pumpkaboo, which by that point will be hitting for 200 damage. And you see here why I'm running non-Night March attackers. There gets a point when I really have to be careful to not just have Night Marchers, because you want to attack with them and you want to have them in the discard pile. So you need to run a bit of a compromise here. Now, I did play this game a little while ago. I'm hoping I'm going to put my Flareon forward here. That's good, that is the right move. I don't need to do that much, and I'm just evolving the Espeon here just so I've got a smaller deck, so if he ends me to 2, I've got a greater chance of drawing that DCE. Because now that I'm hitting him with Flareon, I'm taking 2 prizes, I've got 2 left, Pumpkaboo is hitting for 200 damage. And even Flareon here is going to be hitting for a bit. If he doesn't end me, I win the game. Also, if he doesn't end me or Lysandra and kill the Pumpkaboo, I win the game here. There's literally no way he can win. He plays that Juniper, I am guaranteed to win here. He can't knock out my Pumpkaboo. No, he could play a Stadium, sorry. He could play a Stadium and I'd need a Dimension Valley, but there may be one in my deck, but he hasn't. Pumpkaboo goes up, he one-hit KOs Caldeo, and you see there it is, good game. And this is the power of Night March. I'm playing a good deck, and you saw there, his deck did get going. I'm not quite sure what he's doing with a Blastoise, but his deck got going. His deck worked. His deck did what his deck is supposed to do. Maybe slightly one turn slower than he'd like, but it still got there. And yet Night March, this silly little deck with all these little Pokemon, came through and won, showing you quite how good it can be. As always, leave your comments down below. Make sure you check out my other videos. Make sure you subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, go and get a friend. Get them to subscribe. I will love you forever if you do. Look after yourselves. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back soon with more videos.